Large upfront rent payments in Saudi Arabia create significant financial barriers for many tenants. Ejari, a real estate technology company, offers a rent now, pay later service that transforms annual or semi-annual rents into manageable monthly payments. Yazeed, why is the service that you're offering with Ejari so important in the Saudi market?
I moved back to Saudi after college in the UK, and I was shocked to find out that the entire market structure in Saudi operated on a yearly rental basis. So in essence, you have to pay 12 months up front. It's a burden for a lot of people who either don't want to do it or don't have the ability to do it. So what we're trying to do is just help people afford the most basic in needs and help them pay their rent.
Structurally, how and why has Saudi been organized that way?
So there's no legislative reason for it. It's mainly driven by the market. Landlords have always operated in this manner.
So Ejari is taking on all that know your customer risk, to your point, taking on that risk, and banks even struggle with know your customer requirements. So is there systems you've developed at Ejari to become very effective at know your customer?
Exactly. So we have about 20 data points today that we look at when we decide to onboard a customer or not. When we started, we had none. And we built a feedback loop, really. So the first cohort of customers, we had about a 13% delinquency rate. We looked at that data, we built a feedback loop into the second cohort, dropped to 2%. We looked at that data, built into the third cohort. So far, it's 1%. And it's building blocks. It's looking at the data, looking at the customer behavior, and just adjusting and optimizing as we go forward.
Is there an opportunity with the data you're accumulating to partner with banks, for example? The data you're building is extremely valuable, knowing someone's capabilities to pay rent.
The three segments of customers, I like to call them the underbanked, the unbanked, and the overbanked. So the underbanked are expats or fresh graduates. Banks won't touch them. Unbanked are SME workers. So in Saudi, if you work for an SME, in the eyes of the bank, it's a non-approved employer. So we're not going to finance you because there's risk of the employer going bankrupt. And the overbanked are people who've already maxed out their credit lines with the banks. We're tapping into a customer base that the banks don't want to touch. And if you look at our customer base today, about 5% are employees of banks. It's a surprising mix of customers. Even
individuals that could afford to pay the rent annually or semi-annually are taking advantage of your service, because why tie up all that liquidity?
So we have three types of customers: customer who can't afford to pay the rent, customer who can but doesn't want to, and a customer who wants to shop up. So you're living in an apartment that costs $30,000 a year. Why? Because that's what you had in liquidity. If I give you a monthly payment option, you'd start shopping up for something $40,000, $50,000, $60,000.
There's a huge expansion underway in the Saudi capital and in the country writ large. Do you think that there's an important role for Ejari to play longer term in helping to capitalize and grow the market?
I think that's what we're very bullish on. It's a $50 billion market today. I think the estimates by 2030 in the next 7 years is going to get to over $100 billion. And our goal really is to not just bridge the gap, but help people get into housing. It's the most basic of needs. With where the country is headed, expansion in population, not just from local population, but also other people from over the globe coming into the country, and just helping them to make their lives easier.
When you look beyond the Saudi market, there are many other jurisdictions around the world that operate with a similar program of upfront rent payments. Are the systems you've created transportable to other geographies, and is that part of your expansion plan?
I think the risk metrics differ country to country, the behaviors differ country to country. For now, the focus is Saudi. I think for the next 3 to 5 years, I think we'd be leaving more on the table if we go elsewhere than not. The UAE, which is a neighboring country, has a similar market structure. But even if you look globally, some countries in Africa, like Nigeria and Ghana, operate on a 2-year payment cycle structure. Some places in Asia, and the concept came from when I was a student in the UK. College students in the UK, international ones, have to pay a full year's rent up front. And that's when I had the original problem. So opportunities are there globally, but we've been able to also flip the script in that even landlords who are today accepting monthly rent payments, we're allowing them to unlock liquidity for rent payments that they haven't received yet. So the beauty of the model is it can be easily changeable and adaptable to each market.
I see. So the landlords can become your client as well.
Exactly.
One of the things you've talked about as well on the platform is integrating with government visa and immigration systems to some extent. How is that creating an advantage for you?
The idea is beyond just the government, it's also companies. So, as we're seeing an increase in population, a huge expat inflow coming into the country, to lessen the shock or just to help them get into housing, the goal is to, as they're moving into the country, during the move-in process, we come in there during that process, during the onboarding process, and just help them pay their rent.